are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope everybody had a good weekend out there. It's time to get to business. Back to work here on a Monday on Pushing the Limits. Welcome, PTL family. Obviously, a very busy weekend, and there's a lot to discuss and talk about. The carnage and the dictatorship of the Trump administration. And yes, for the first time, I have called this administration fascist, and I have no more apologies. What I see with what they are doing with ICE right now and threatening Greenland and what they've done with Venezuela, I think I am well within my right to call this a fascist regime and Donald Trump officially a dictator. And if you want to make comparisons to Adolf Hitler, I no longer have a problem with that. I'm at that point now where I just don't care. So before we get to our first guest, and obviously, as I mentioned, there's a lot to talk about today, I am very excited to announce that we have some great guests lined up for you this week. The one and only Don Lemon is going to be joining us on the show Thursday. I had a nice conversation with him over the weekend. He's going to be joining us on Thursday. Riley Lewis is the guy that I got into it with from OAN. If you recall last week, he does the show The Real Story. He's agreed to come on to have another debate live on this show tomorrow. Also tomorrow, Ron Filipkowski from Midas Touch is going to be joining us. Now, I'm really excited to have this guy on Friday because I've been wanting to get the Jolly Good Ginger on this show for a very, very long time. Spoke with him yesterday. He has agreed to come on. The former, of course, veteran, and gosh, I love his commentary. There's a reason why he's so popular. So the Jolly Good Ginger, who I love, is going to be joining us on the show Friday. So Don Lemon, Jolly Good Ginger, Riley Lewis, and Ron Filipkowski tomorrow, and some many other special guests. Working on Mark Ruffalo, by the way. Great actor, also on the right side of history. And I'm in talks to try to get him on the show, if not this week, next week, which would be awesome. So certainly looking forward to that as well. Obviously, what's going on in Minneapolis, Minnesota, it's getting worse. The right-wing grifter agitators are at it again. We saw protests all over the country. And something that I noticed that caught my eye this morning that is sickening me is Mr. Ross, the murderer, as far as I'm concerned, the ICE agent who killed Mrs. Good. He's received over $600,000 in donations, I would imagine, from MAGA. If he didn't do anything wrong and he's not going to be charged, then why are they sending him cash if he was just doing his job? Yeah, I'm wondering why that is too. And to talk about this and, of course, many other topics of the day and what has transpired over the weekend is the very popular left-leaning podcaster who I am lucky enough to call a friend, Ryan Shedd, joining us on a Monday. Ryan, it is good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Hanging in there, brother. Hanging by the seat of my pants like every other American, I think, right now, except for the people that are sending this guy money.
Yeah, isn't that sick? Ryan, I just found out about this an hour ago. Yeah. Jack Posobiec goes on social media and he's bragging and gloating about how this guy received $600,000. I would imagine it's probably going to be more than $1 million in a few days.
That's just the platform we see.
Yeah.
There's other platforms collecting money for him too. And to tag what you said going into the show, I want to also point out that DHS and Kristi Noem actually paid and assisted this man and his family to flee his home. The government paid to help him flee his home. So again, if he did nothing wrong, why are you running?
That's also very true. And it sickens me. I'm going to talk a little bit later on in the show about Kristi Noem's performance and her interview she did with Jake Tapper on CNN, which was abysmal, disgusting. So Ryan, help me understand this here. Tell me if you think I'm wrong here. Based on all the evidence and all the stuff that we've seen, including his own cell phone video, regardless of whether somebody thinks this is self-defense or not, look at all the protocols and the training that were done the wrong way. Example, number one, why is he holding a cell phone? He has two hands. Nowhere in your training, whether you're a police officer or an ICE agent, whoever you are, you should be holding and using one of your hands to record on a cell phone. Why are you recording and why are you walking from the back of the vehicle to the front of the vehicle when you could have just had a conversation with her right there? Instead, he tries to intimidate. There was no reason why he did that. That's number two. Number three, Even if he was grazed by the vehicle, why isn't he trying to get out of the way? If you noticed, he's standing right there, takes his gun out, doesn't move. That's against protocol. That's number 3. Why are you shooting her in the face after the car is clearly past you? Shots number 2 and 3. Why are you leaving the scene immediately, casually saying, hey guys, call 911, bringing your gun with you and leaving the scene within 30 seconds after looking at her?
Which is very against protocol.
Yeah, I mean, right. And then he calls her an effing B word. I mean, you want to talk about protocols. Forget about whether, MAGA says, well, it was self-defense. He was struck by the vehicle. By the way, Donald Trump said he almost died. And he
in the
said
hospital.
Right. That's a lie. There's no evidence he was in the hospital. There's no evidence of any injuries, nothing. But those 4 or 5 things that I just mentioned, I don't think that's opinion. If you talk to anybody that's been in law enforcement before, what do you say to that?
Well, again, we're seeing the propaganda winning the day. Because as soon as it started happening, they started saying, Trump and the whole right wing started saying, we support ICE. It's like, you guys don't even have all the information yet, and like you just said, the video is so damning, in my opinion. He's walking around the vehicle, like you said, and she's like practically smiling at him, like, I'm not mad at you, dude. Like, cool, whatever. She starts flipping out when she's surrounded by like 3 cops, and 2 of them are coming up to her door, start yanking on it. They're cussing at her, using the F word.
That's a good
and
point,
telling
too.
her to get out. And then this dude's walking around having an interaction with, her spouse. And then, like you said, he gets in front of the car. But the thing that people aren't paying attention to is, what were her intentions with the vehicle? She clearly wasn't trying to run the man over. She had the wheels pointed going down the road, which was evident because as soon as he shot her, she was gone. And the car was going down the road because that's where she had her freaking tires pointed. She didn't drive straight into the dude. And again, he put himself in front of that vehicle. He's the one that pulled his weapon. I guess we don't tase people anymore, law enforcement. But like you said, the part that upset me and that I think we should all pay a little more attention to is ICE is not using body cams. Right. They're using their cell phones. Yeah. Who is monitoring these videos? Do they only submit videos when something happens? Do they have any kind of protocol of when they're supposed to use their cell phones? Should they really be holding their cell phones while simultaneously shooting people? Like, I have all these questions of, why are these people being allowed on American streets with very little supervision and now literally killing Americans? Let's call it what it is.
Yep.
And like you said, they're going to raise $1 million for this dude. And why I bet that woman's kids probably haven't raised 400,000.
I would tend to agree with you. And some of these ICE officers have chosen to use GoPro cameras. Now, what system they're using, the problem with that is when you're using, and you're right, when you're using a body cam, it goes into a system where it just cannot be deleted, right? But if you're using a GoPro camera, we don't know what database.
You're going to go home and load up into your computer.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know where that's going. So you make a good point. Listen, nowhere in law enforcement does it says on even a routine traffic stop, that you're supposed to be using one of your hands and recording. That is absurd. That goes by every protocol in law enforcement that you can use.
You need to have your hands available.
Absolutely. And Ryan, you mentioned something else, which I forgot, and I'm glad you mentioned it because it's really important. De-escalation. You have one officer who did not pull the trigger, but certainly made the situation worse. Instead of going up to the vehicle and not pulling on the door, but saying, hi, man, my name is officer, blah, 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 blah. Yep. Here's what we're going to need you to do because we're conducting an investigation. We don't want to arrest you. We don't want this to escalate. So please do us a favor and please move your car now. We'll give you an opportunity to leave so we can go about our business.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, Ryan, that if they approached it in that way, she'd still be alive today.
Yeah,
what does he do?
Problem.
Yeah, and what does he do? He walks up to the vehicle, tries to pull the door, and says, "Get the F out." That is the opposite of right. That is the opposite of de-escalation techniques. And we named all the other things and the mistakes that the officers made. And I think this is really important. First of all, he was grazed. He wasn't run over. We know that. There's no evidence of any injuries. But why didn't he get the hell out of the way? Why was he standing in front of the vehicle?
It's absurd. Think he was grazed.
It's absurd.
And even the first shot. Look at the photos of the shot through the windshield. Please, everybody. just go look at it, make your own judgment. But you can tell the shot was coming from the side. It wasn't a straight through the windshield shot. It was at an angle, meaning he was already getting out of the way and her tires were pointed in the opposite direction. So again, the discussion here is, did he really need to shoot her? And the answer is no. He murdered her.
Of course. Yeah, listen, I completely agree with you. With that being said, I am going to say this, and there are some people that are going to be listening to this show that might disagree with what I say. I think you'll agree with me here, but listen, she didn't deserve to die. I will say this, though. There are some people out there that are getting in ICE officers' faces and screaming at them. There are some people that are throwing frozen water bottles. There are people that are banging on their vehicles. I understand why they're frustrated and angry. I totally get it. I'm on their side. But these are people with itchy trigger fingers that have limited training, that clearly don't know how to de-escalate. Some of these people have anger issues. We don't know who these people are. Don't agitate them, because I don't want you to be killed. And I think people need to be very careful. You have your First Amendment right to peacefully protest. I want you to do that. There were a lot of peaceful protests around the country, but don't bang on their vehicles and don't try to interfere in their investigation. I'm not saying Miss Good was doing that. What I'm saying in general terms, I'm worried, and I don't want people to be killed. And I'm afraid that there are people out there that are getting in front of vehicles or that are screaming in their faces. And I don't know what these ICE officers are going to do. I just don't want more violence. Does that make sense?
Oh, I mean, it makes complete sense. And I'll take it a step further. Honestly, I don't have a problem with them. You don't want to scream in their faces, scream in their faces. That's your right. But like you said, the minute we start throwing rocks, we start throwing, frozen water bottles, we lose whatever moral high ground we had in this fight. And me personally, the step further I'm going to take it is, if and when the time comes that we do have to exercise our Second Amendment rights and we actually have to have a conflict, then I would like it not to be like this constant, let's throw some rocks, now we actually have to go arm ourselves and do something, because they're, like you just said, they're coming for us now. They're pissed. Like, I would rather it be reserved for if and when that time comes, because in my year, 2 years down the road, look, if it keeps going the way it is, we're going to be in some type of a civil conflict. And we need to be prepared for that possibility. I'm not wishing it happens. I'm not hoping it happens. I'm saying, as American people watching what we're watching, law enforcement and military being deployed into American cities, and now being able to shoot Americans in the face and have the government say that they have absolute immunity, to not sit here and have the conversation of, do we need to arm ourselves and how concerned should we be, is irresponsible and naive.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then the flip side, of course, you have right-wing agitators and imbeciles like Nick Sorter and Cam Higbee. Now, listen, I've had run-ins with both of them. I actually, me and Cam Higbee talked things out in Phoenix, but I still think he's a doofus and a buffoon. And then Nick Sorter, who camps outside of Tim Walz's home, calling him retard, which I think is just an abomination.
What he did last night?
And that's what I was going to get to. So, they're recording, and they have their video cameras out, and they're getting into physical confrontations. In this case, Nick Sorter with a female. They're just agitating, and they're going to these situations because they want to get involved in physical altercations. And then they're surprised, and I don't condone violence, but they're surprised when people are throwing stuff at their truck when they're only there to cause problems. They're not there to just document. They're there to agitate.
Or debate. Yeah.
Right. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, like you just said, they're not there to have good faith conversations or debate. I don't have a problem with if you want to have a good faith conversation, but a lot of times they want to invite you to these events and they want to invite you on their shows so they can get that viral clip out of you. It's one of the reasons I don't go to a lot of events in person, because I don't know how to put it. Like, I think a lot of people online aren't who they claim to be, aren't the tough guys. And some people are, and I'm not the type of person to have somebody disrespect me and me not put them in their place.
Right.
And if it escalates to physical, it's probably not going to go well for the other person, unless there's some big dude like me.
Right.
So it's just kind of like, It's like what is it? Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan to get punched in the face, or get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
And that really is the truth, because how many times have, you had your experience where a dude walked up to you at an event and literally ended up, even though it was more of a, high-fived your face, I think we should call it, but he got physical with you.
Sure.
We can joke about it and everything, but at the end of the day, the dude put his hands on you at a public event.
Yep.
And to my knowledge, he never got arrested.
No, he didn't. And part of that maybe is because I didn't press charges, but there are agitators, and then there are people that show up as journalists just to document and keep to themselves. Yep. That's not what Nick Sorter does. That's not what Cam Higbee do. And listen, these are the same people that get rewarded. They're invited to the White House for roundtable discussions and
contracts, online contracts, everything.
Yeah, yep. It's a joke. The Nick Shirleys of the world. These are right-wing grifting agitators, and they are making these situations far worse than they should be. I don't condone violence, neither do you. No. But at the same time, why aren't they getting arrested? Well, I can guarantee you, if Donald Trump wasn't president of the United States and Kristi Noem wasn't in charge, and Kash Patel, they would be arrested, and they would be
actual honorable people. Yeah,
right. But that's not what's happening here. If you are a Donald Trump defender and you are a Donald Trump supporter, what this administration is basically telling everybody is you can commit murder and we will take care of you. I mean, it's
pardons are already written.
That's why, and it's interesting, Ryan, because never on this show have I ever used the term fascist. And in fact, when people have called into this show and, called it a Nazi regime, I said, let's not go there. I understand why you're saying that. But at this point, I'm okay with it now. I'm okay with it.
It's one of the reasons that I've always enjoyed coming on the show, and I mean, like you said, we're friends outside of this, but you do try to at least keep the rhetoric, to a minimum when you're having a debate, or when you're trying to have a discussion, and, you kind of let them walk into their own trap, and then you just close the jaws on them like that. That's kind of how I view you. Like, I'm much more abrasive. You let them walk in the door first, and then you give it to them. And that's the approach I think people really respond to, because it's like, okay, yeah, we want to see Brian give it to him, but at the same time, we want to see this dude like step in his own turd, before he does it.
Of course.
And like you said, they give it to you in spades. They give it to us every day. I think the fact that Jonathan Ross hasn't been arrested already shows you how far gone our country is, that our legal system is broken. Our justice system has zero integrity or intention of protecting us, the American citizen.
Yep.
They are here to protect Trump and property. That's about it.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at right now from that standpoint. And the reason why I'm saying I think it's okay right now to call this man a dictator. I think it's okay to make references to Nazi Germany. I think it's okay to call him a fascist, because let's just call out what is happening in this country right now. I think this incident put me over the edge now in the way the Trump administration is handling it. Basically, you have ICE agents throughout the country, many of whom are in unidentified cars, and some of them are not even identifying themselves as ICE agents. They're kidnapping people. Yeah. And we have so many crimes that these ICE officers are committing that aren't even on camera, let alone the things that we actually have on camera. And the Trump administration, to my knowledge, hasn't arrested one ICE officer.
No.
To my knowledge. And right. And the way that they're handling this specific situation, listen, at worst, if they just said, okay, listen, this is a tragic situation. We are going to investigate this and find out the truth of what really happened. I would say, all right, I don't trust their investigation, but at least they're saying the right things. And they've already made up their mind. An hour after the shooting, Kristi Noem already made up her mind, and they don't want an independent investigation. I've gotten people on the right to agree with me based on the circumstance that there needs to be an independent investigation. If you don't trust Tim Walz and the mayor and you want an independent, fine, I'm okay with that. Yep. Have an independent investigation. They don't want to do that for the same reason they don't want to release the Epstein files, for the same reasons why they don't want to say why Trump had an MRA, for the same reasons why they don't want to release his tax returns, because they have something to hide, and they know at a minimum, the ICE officer is at least partially responsible for this woman losing her life.
100%. I mean, I co-sign every word you just said. And I hope I don't offend anybody with this, because I've been thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember how gut-wrenching watching the George Floyd everything, just happened the way it did, and watching everybody defend what that officer did. And, he didn't shoot George Floyd in the face. He knelt on his back or his neck for 9+ minutes.
Correct.
Which is horrifying in its own way. But we arrested that man and we put him in prison for quite a long time, if I recall. And this dude just shot an American woman, an American citizen, in the face for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And he is still free.
I'm worried, Ryan. I don't think that there's going to be charges filed.
No, absolutely. Not only that, I think next time they need a really big look over here moment, he's going to pardon Derek Chauvin.
I tend to agree with you that also. I think there's going to be some very bad pardons before he leaves office. And the Derek Chauvin thing.
Look at the pardons he's already done, dude.
Oh, it's egregious. And then they want to complain about Hunter Biden's pardon. I mean, this is insane. Yeah, it's insane.
There's the January 6th pardons by themselves, way overshadow any pardon that the Biden administration did. Let's call it what it is.
I think it says everything, though, Ryan. Doesn't it say everything? When this guy, who I believe committed murder, this ICE agent has already received over $600,000. You know what it reminds me of? In a sense, but obviously different circumstance because nobody lost their life. But do you remember on the playground, the white woman who called a 5-year-old child the N-word? And then she received millions of dollars in donations from Trumpers. And then we have the Cinnabon worker. Same thing.
Over a million.
Who are these people that are making these donations? I'm going to tell you right now, they're all Trump supporters. You couldn't find me somebody who voted for Kamala Harris or a Democrat for that
matter. Even independent, I think.
No, not even independents, who are giving their money to blatant bigots. Yeah. And now we have, in my estimation, a murderer, and he's being rewarded for this horrific, what I would consider. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Where are we as a society? Where are we now where so many people in this country want to reward bigots? I'm sickened to my stomach. It never used to be this way, at least not before the Donald Trump days. I don't recall it being this bad.
I asked myself that a lot. Was it this bad, or we just didn't have access to it all? We didn't have the recordings every day. We didn't have the social media posts to look back at. That's kind of the way I look at that. But I'll tell you the one thing that I have run through my mind over and over again. If I was a felon, or I was accused, or you had just watched me on a live somebody, pretty much on the world stage, and you called me up and said, "Hey, Ryan, we're going to come pick you up and put you in hiding." Now, would that be potentially harboring a fugitive?
Absolutely it is. 100%. 100%.
So if Kristi Noem and our government calls this dude up and says, "Hey, we're going to come pick you up and help your family hide," is the government now harboring a fugitive?
Yeah. Listen, that's a really good point you make, and I completely agree with you. Obviously, I don't support anybody that makes, life-ending threats, for lack of a better term.
No.
But, I look at this guy, and I look at ICE agents, and I've been posting these things on social media. To be a McDonald's manager, you need up to a year training. Right. Yeah. But 47 hours, you can be an ICE agent in under a month and get that $50,000 check.
$50,000.
Yeah. $50,000 check waiting for you.
But nobody can.
But now we know why they're wearing those scarves over their faces, because they don't want to be identified. A lot of these people, some of them don't even have high school diplomas. They don't even have a GED.
Some of them probably aren't even citizens. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, it's very possible. But here's the thing. We don't know who these people are.
No.
When you're a police officer, it is everyone's constitutional right, because they're public servants.
What's your badge number?
Badge number and last name. I don't think they have to give their first name, but they do have to give their last name and their badge number. ICE officers are not doing that. Okay, some are, but most are not. We don't know who they are. They're not identified, and they're not identifying themselves. And even worse, when they're making some arrests, they're not even identifying themselves as ICE agents. They're coming out of unmarked cars. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional. And that's why I call this a dictatorship. That's why I'm now calling it a fascist regime. And if right-wingers out there don't like it, I don't care. It was Donald Trump who called Kamala Harris a fascist multiple times on the campaign trail, but MAGA forget it. And why is Kamala Harris a fascist? What has she ever done in her life, let alone in her political career?
Belt.
Yeah, what has she ever done? I could name you a plethora. Look at what they're doing in Venezuela right now. Look at Machado coming to the White House on Thursday, trying to kiss Donald Trump's ass because she wants to be the next president.
They're going to give him that. They're going to give him that Nobel Peace Prize.
Of course they are. It's an absolute freaking joke is what it is. And then we look at what is taking place now in Iran. Let's not forget they're ready to go to war. But yeah, there's peace in the Middle East. There's peace everywhere. I've ended 8 or 9 wars. He's starting wars. That's what he's doing.
I don't know how anybody could argue with the fact that, one, he is starting more conflicts, and two, his so-called peace deals have not lasted.
Yeah.
I can't think of one off the top of my head, and I'm not saying there isn't one, but I can't think of one out of however many he's claimed to do that has been successful or is still in play.
Yeah.
Again, on the world stage, we're literally looking at a world war, and unfortunately, too many Americans don't realize that this time around we're one of the instigators. Yeah. We're not like World War II, where we sat back and kind of let them do their thing for a while until Japan came over and forced our hand. We're the one going around forcing people's hands right now.
Yeah,
how long do you think these countries are going to allow us to keep doing this? And then on top of it, if you aren't embarrassed watching the president sit up for a press conference with a bunch of oil executives talking about how they're going to go into Venezuela and get all that oil, and then Exxon CEO basically is like, no, we're not. And here's why. Because you don't know what you're talking about. We've tried 2 times already, and both times the refineries were taken over, or all the product was taken, or all the machinery was taken. Like, we've tried it. We're not going back in there until leadership changes and da-da-da-da. Like, they literally made him look like an idiot. And then he goes on the plane and starts saying, oh, well, I don't like that, so he's probably not going to be part of the deal. That's the problem, dude. Instead of, contacting Congress and saying, hey, we're thinking about going into Venezuela, what do you guys think? He was on the phone with his donors and his big oil companies.
Yeah.
So again, if that combined with people covering their faces, going around American streets claiming to police it, and oh, by the way, let me end it with this. If you have a mother, a grandmother, a sister, a daughter, if you aren't teaching your child to roll the windows up and not let somebody open their door that with their face covered screaming at them, then you didn't raise your child right. Because I have told my daughter, if something like that happens, you drive off. Somebody stand in front of the car, I don't care. The fact that all these men and parents are out there saying that what we just watched is acceptable is insane to me. So again, everybody that thought, oh, well, when it affects them or when they see an American, be affected or whatever, they'll change their tune. No, they won't, because it's just like Brian said. The intention was control. And the next thing that they're doing in the line of secession of control is they want us out of NATO. And again, I don't know if you remember the last time we've been pretty much threatened by NATO to say, if you go in there, we're going to have to attack you, which is basically what NATO said. In terms of Greenland. So
sick. It's sick times we're living in right now. Threatening military force on Greenland is just one of many things, and that's why
screwing over our allies.
Oh, absolutely, and that's why this is 100% a dictatorship and chaos. And it's
100%.
Ryan, got to leave it on that, my friend.
Yes,
I always appreciate your time. Keep up the great work with your podcast, and please follow Ryan on social media. Yes, Ryan, you're one of the best, my friend. We'll catch up with you soon. Please have a good rest of your week, okay?
Yeah, man, a good week. You got good guests coming on, so
thanks,
look
Ryan.
forward to it, man.
I appreciate that, Ryan. Thanks for coming on, my friend. Appreciate
you.
There you go. Ryan Shedd, everybody, one of the best. I love having him on. Quickly, Ryan just mentioned, before we play clips, Ryan just mentioned some of the guests that I'm going to be having on for the remainder of the week. Don Lemon is going to be joining us on Thursday. That's right. I'm a lemon head. Don Lemon's going to be joining us on Thursday. A guy that I've been wanting to get on this show for a long time, and I'm really excited to have him. The Jolly Good Ginger is going to be joining us on the show Friday. I love the Jolly Ginger, so he's going to be I love his work. Tomorrow's a big show too. So you guys might have seen my OAN, the One American Network appearance on The Real Story with Riley Lewis. We debated the Minneapolis shooting. Well, Riley Lewis has agreed to go round number 2 with me on this very show tomorrow from OAN. So Riley Lewis is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow, along with Ron Filipkowski from Midas Touch. Leonard Cardinale joining us in studio Wednesday. So we got a lot of great guests. And Mark Ruffalo, great actor. We're working on trying to get him on the show, if not this week, then next week. So there's a lot of clips that I want to play for you, and a lot of stuff that we need to talk about what transpired over the weekend. So I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to watch Kristi Noem and her pathetic performance on Jake Tapper's show. So Kristi Noem just showed video of what took place on January 6th. And as you know, many of officers were beat with their own batons. There were a lot of law enforcement officers, some of whom received traumatic brain injury. A lot of carnage that took place that day. And the argument that Jake Tapper is trying to make is, well, hey, if you're claiming that this woman, Miss Good, was obstructing justice and, so on and so forth, which, by the way, I'm not willing to say she was, but let's just say hypothetically she was, which is what Kristi Noem is trying to say, then why would you pardon a bunch of January 6th insurrectionists? And Kristi Noem does not answer this question, as she's cornered brilliantly by Jake Tapper. Listen to this.
I want to ask a question about the rules of how law enforcement is allowed to engage when feeling threatened, per your assertions. Because I want to show some video to you right now and ask, what is the appropriate response for the police officers in this situation? Those are law enforcement officers being physically attacked. By this standard, would any of those officers be justified in shooting and killing the people causing them physical harm?
Every single situation is going to rely on the situation those officers are on. But they know that when people are putting hands on them, when they are using weapons against them, when they are physically harming them, that they have the authority to arrest those individuals.
The president pardoned every single one of those people.
And make sure that they're getting justice for their actions going forward.
President Trump pardoned every single one of those people.
And every single one of these investigations comes in the full context of the situation on the ground. And that's one thing that President Trump has been so focused on, is making sure that when we're out there, we don't pick and choose which situations are and which laws are enforced and which ones aren't. Every single one of them is being enforced under the Trump administration. And the clarity of the law stands. And if people don't like it, these members of Congress and elected officials should go change the law and make sure they have that debate and policy change.
I just showed you video of people attacking law enforcement officers. Undisputed proof, undisputed evidence. And I just said President Trump pardoned all of them. And you said that President Trump is enforcing all the laws equally. It's just not true. There's a different standard for law enforcement officials being attacked if they're being attacked by Trump supporters. We just saw that.
This individual and these instances and these investigations all have to be taken and done correctly in context of every situation that is happening on the ground. So what we are doing today as the Department of Homeland Security is out there with our law enforcement officers, making sure that we're targeting the worst of the worst and that we're talking factually about each situation and making sure that we're bringing those perpetuators of violence back to justice, bringing them to justice and making sure they face consequences for their crimes. We'd love to have the partnership of Mayor Fry. We'd love to have the partnership of the Chief of Police and of Governor Walz every day when we're out there to make sure they tone down the rhetoric and they do the right thing for the people of Minnesota.
All right, well, we'll ask Mayor Fry and the Chief of Police in just a couple moments. Thank you so much, Madam Secretary.
Targeting the worst of the worst. Miss Good was shot in the face 3 times. She is no longer alive. Those who beat cops on January 6th, some of those police officers now have traumatic brain injury. Donald Trump pardoned those people and called them hostages and patriots. And do you know notice how Kristi Noem doesn't answer any direct question that is put her way? It is despicable. It is disgusting. And no, there is no equality in the Trump administration when it comes to breaking the law. You are above the law if you are a Trump supporter. You are above the law if you're a January 6th insurrectionist. But somehow, if you're an ICE agent that shoots somebody 3 times and ends their life, We are going to protect you. No, there is no consistency here. And then a very difficult part of these videos, or at least the cell phone video that was released, shows ICE Agent Ross, seconds after ending this woman's life, calling her an effing B word. Seconds after this incident, horrific incident, took place. And Kristi Noem is asked about that after Jake Tapper plays this audio, and she has a smirk on her face. She thinks this is funny.
That he's alive too. I want to play this moment from the officer's cell phone video. This is number 7, folks.
Get out of the car.
Is that Agent Ross's voice calling Renee Good a
Yes. Yes, it is. And again, Kristi Noem has a smirk on her face. And that smirk on her face doesn't really answer the question, but basically says, it could be, I'm not sure. Yes, it is. And she says it with a smirk on her face. What does that tell you about who Kristi Noem is, and what does that tell you about this ICE officer, in my personal opinion, an officer who just committed murder? Then there's DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin, who claims that the officer who ended the life of Renee Good followed proper training. Listen to this.
We've given a bunch of video and other evidence about the facts that happened on the ground, and they've all corroborated what we've said since hour 2, which is that this individual was stalking and harassing our law enforcement officers for hours that day. She was impeding lawful operations, and then when our officers approached her, giving her commands to stop interfering with operations, to exit the car as she was about to be arrested, that is when she not only didn't comply with those lawful orders, but she also put her foot on the gas. And that's when our officer, he followed his training. He was in fear for his life. He was in fear for the law enforcement officers around his lives. And that's when he followed his training. And this situation turned deadly.
Tricia McLaughlin, you are a lying scum is what you are. First of all, she wasn't stalking ICE officers for hours. In fact, 30 minutes prior to this incident when she lost her life, she had just dropped off one of her kids at school. That's not stalking for hours before that. You are a liar, and you're lying on national television. Number 2, you're telling me this is proper protocol and this is proper training? Okay, let's go review this for Mrs. McLaughlin, who has absolutely no idea what she's talking about. And by the way, how scary is this? She's the DHS spokesperson. Is it proper training, Tricia, to be using one of your hands, to be holding up a cell phone and recording? Is that proper protocol for anybody in law enforcement? No, it's not, number 1. Number 2, instead of this officer engaging the driver and de-escalating, he walks past her vehicle. That's when she says, I'm not mad at you. He walks behind the vehicle, completely against any proper training and protocol. You're not supposed to be being behind the vehicle. Then walks to the side of the vehicle, and then walks to the front of the vehicle, completely against all proper protocols. Number 3, de-escalation. Instead of the other officer trying to grab on the door handle, or the other officer saying, get the F out of the car, that's not de-escalation technique. De-escalation would have been, hello, my name is Officer Shapiro with ICE. Ma'am, we're going to need you to step out of the vehicle because we are conducting our own investigation here. You're impeding our, whatever they thought, you're impeding on our ma'am, we're going to please need you to get out of the car so we can talk to you. That would have been a de-escalation technique, and I guarantee you she probably would still be alive today. Okay? That's the third thing they did. Number 4, you don't shoot your weapon after there is no threat. Let's just say, worst case scenario, the officer did think that his life was in jeopardy. First of all, I don't believe that because she was clearly turning her vehicle to the right. You could see that in the cell phone footage. So this idea that the MAGA narrative they're putting forward is that she was trying to run over this officer, which, by the way, she didn't, is a lie. She was turning her vehicle to the right. And 2 of those shots that were fired were on the side of the vehicle through the driver's side door window. That is not self-defense. That's against all protocols. Number 5. These are all training protocols that they went against. Number 5, and this is a big one. After calling her an effing B-word, there's video of this. This isn't an opinion. He walks over to the vehicle and sees that she is most likely no longer alive. Then he gingerly and casually, instead of trying to perform life-saving technique on her, whether it be CPR or getting her out of the car or doing everything he could to stop the bleeding, no, he doesn't do any of those things. That would have been proper protocol. He casually walks back to his unmarked vehicle and uninjured, he doesn't call 911, but he says, guys, call 911. Casually at a slow rate of pace, walks back to his unmarked car and drives away with the weapon. That is also against all proper technique and protocol. So I just named you 5 or 6 different mistakes that he made leading up to this thing and right afterwards. That is not proper training, and Tricia McLaughlin is despicable, and she's lying on national television. You know who else is despicable? Representative Pete Sessions, who now is saying if you honk your horn, you're obstructing a federal law enforcement officer. Yes, that's right. Let me repeat that once again. He's saying in this clip that if you're blowing your horn, somehow you're obstructing. Listen.
Rhetoric we've heard from your colleagues now for months. Is the anti-ICE platform an agenda item now for Democrats?
Well, whatever's next, they will jump on that too. But I think the point that's well made is that these people who are out trying to obstruct federal law enforcement doing their job have created a new scenario, not just for the administration, but also for the American people. And this protesting that goes on, honking of horns, obstructing federal law enforcement should not be tolerated. And it is my hope that our men and women who are in ICE will continue to keep their cool about what they do. But I will tell you that they are being put in a difficult circumstance. Mm-hmm. Just have someone put an iPhone on your face and follow you around and yell and scream at you. And at some point, that becomes a real problem. But doing their job, honking your horns, following people is something that must not be tolerated. And I stand completely with the administration on this effort.
Okay, so according to Representative Sessions, who is a complete right-wing MAGA mushroom-gobbling buffoon, if you honk your horn, that can't be tolerated. But apparently if you beat cops on January 6th, you deserve a pardon and you're a hostage and a patriot. These people cannot be taken seriously, including ICE Director Todd Lyons, who was asked on Fox about the possibility of Ross being prosecuted by the state of Minnesota, and listened to him threaten local state officials.
This is a sheriff in Philadelphia who had a message about your agency on Thursday. Watch.
We are not going to whisk you away for them to hide your identity, because when you do it there, you're getting arrested. And so we stand here today with all those who stand against the made-up, fake, what you can call ICE, professional law enforcement. I don't call them none of that. If them want to come in this city and commit a crime, you will not be able to hide. You don't want this smoke, because we will bring it.
Those were on-the-record comments from that law enforcement official, whose bio, by the way, is very heavy on DEI, the bio that she put out for herself. What is your response to those remarks?
Well, first off, Guy, anytime you pit law enforcement officers against law enforcement officers, it makes nobody safe. This is the exact type of political rhetoric that I've been saying ever since I had the opportunity to be the ICE director, that this increased rhetoric is what's causing the issues right now. You can't pit a local law enforcement officer against a federal law enforcement officer. We are out there trying to do a lawful law enforcement mission, and this rhetoric right here is pure example of what we're facing every day. And you know, I'm not one for like big, banter or bluster, but my message to the sheriff is try it. Try arrest my folks.
Yeah, try it. Try and arrest my folks. Yeah, okay, tough guy, Todd. I hope they do, by the way. I hope they go in there and they arrest Ross, and I hope they put him in a 4x4 cell. Let me be very clear on that. It's despicable. And the excuses that the right are making for what is happening, not just in Minneapolis. Let's be clear here. This is not just Minneapolis. Horrible incidents are happening with these ICE agents throughout the country who are in unidentified, unmarked cars, and they're not identifying themselves in many situations as ICE agents. Listen, this is somebody that I don't always agree with in Ilhan Omar. I don't always agree with her. I've never personally liked her very much, but in this situation and in a national interview she did over the weekend, she was absolutely right. I mentioned this in the 5 or 6 protocols and the proper training of these law enforcement officials, or lack thereof, with these ICE agents, that you shouldn't be in front of a car. Why did this guy decide to get in front of her vehicle? It is against every protocol, and that's what Ilhan Omar had to say about it.
If they are saying that he has 10 years on service and is trained, he should know that you shouldn't be trying to get in front of a moving car. And
well, she's right. I don't always agree with everything Ilhan Omar says, but she's 100% correct here. He's on the side of the vehicle where she tells him, "I'm not mad at you." That would have been the point. She was being pretty calm. After she says, "I'm not mad at you," wouldn't that be the correct time to respond, to say, "Okay, ma'am, I'm glad you're not mad at us. Here's what we need from you. We need you to get out of the car, or we need you to move your car. Okay, here's why, because we're conducting an investigation." That would have been the appropriate time to communicate with her. Now, why didn't he do that? Because he wasn't de-escalating. He was trying to intimidate. He takes out his cell phone. He's recording her. He walks around the vehicle, which means he walks behind the vehicle against protocols. Then it seems as though he's recording her wife. And then he gets to the front of the vehicle. Why would you get to the front of the vehicle? Why wouldn't you make every effort to get away and get to the side of the vehicle? He doesn't do any of that. It's against all protocols when you're in law enforcement, and it doesn't matter whether you're an ICE agent or a police officer or an FBI agent. All your training tells you to do in a traffic stop or in any situation like this one: don't get to the back of the car, don't get to the front of the car. And don't tell me he was trying to get to the side of the car, because at the beginning of his cell phone video, she was engaging him and he was on the side of the car. Why did he go around the vehicle? Because he's an idiot, that's why. And he wasn't properly trained, and he was trying to intimidate her. Now, one of the most disgraceful people on right-wing media today, and there's plenty of them, trust me, there's a whole plethora of names. One of them is Sean Hannity. And what Sean Hannity does is you'll have like a local reporter or one of his reporters interview protesters. And I got to tell you, this time it completely backfired on him 150%. So he's talking to an earpiece to one of his reporters because he's too much of a coward to go out there and do this himself. And then the reporter is asking this protester questions, and this protester completely embarrasses Sean Hannity and the Fox News narrative. And I just want to say, all these right-wing entities on the right, their narrative on what took place in Minnesota is despicable, and it's disgusting. We all have eyes. We all can see the videos here, especially the cell phone video, on what transpired here. But they want to put in a different narrative. Oh, it was self-defense. She was there for hours stalking. All these lies, right? Sean Hannity is one of them. But I want you to listen to this intelligent and logical protester, because they think they're going to go up to these people that are ill-informed, that don't know how to put sentences together. And yes, sometimes that does happen. That was not the case this time. I want you to watch this and how this protester completely embarrasses Sean Hannity on his show live.
Have you spoken to any people, or can you speak to anybody that's marching right now and ask them what it is that they're marching about?
Yeah. Excuse me. Can you tell us, what are you here marching for?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, my ears are ringing a lot, so I don't know if I'll hear perfectly. But, yeah, I'm just here because I think it's absolutely disgusting what ICE is doing here. I think it's absolutely abhorrent that they're kidnapping people. I'm disgusted that they murdered an innocent human being. And, yeah, the entire thing just absolutely abhors me. This has to stop immediately. What we're seeing right now is, frankly, an ethnic cleansing. It's disgusting.
Hey, Garrett.
And it needs to stop. And I'm glad that there's so many people out here trying to stop this, because it's just abhorrent, and we need to stick together to stop this.
Does he have a concern that the woman was driving her car at an officer? Does it concern this individual?
When you saw this video that is out, did you have any concern that it looked like this woman may have been driving her vehicle at the officer?
That's not what it looked like to me at all. And I mean, like, even if you did assume that was the case, which it absolutely is not, we are supposed to train officers to be responsible in these situations and judge the situation objectively, look at it reasonably. Like, there just absolutely is no justification for this. But again, looking at the video from both angles, I know that there was another clip that came out earlier today from like a different angle. You can very clearly tell that she is evacuating the scene. There is like absolutely no evidence that there's like any like attempt to drive the vehicle into the officers.
Garrett, last question. What should we do with people that don't obey our laws and come into the country illegally?
What do you think we should do with people that have come into the country illegally who are here, is the question.
I think they have the right to be here, frankly. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I think they have the right to be here. I think that's just a basic human right is freedom of movement. We recognize that in the United Nations Charter. That, in my opinion, is just a fundamental human right that all nations ought to recognize. And I'm glad that some people are standing up for that basic human right.
And what's your instrument of choice?
Instrument of choice? I just found a bell in a bag. Someone was handing out free stuff, so there we go.
All right, Karen.
Yeah, all right. Hannity, you just got destroyed. Now, there's a guy who, to me at least, was giving, for the most part, pretty reasonable answers. And notice how Sean Hannity has no rebuttal. Like he didn't know what to say. He was just expecting that this was just going to be some dumb liberal who was going to give stupid answers. No, everything that protester said, for the most part, I agree with. That was not self-defense. We're here protesting peacefully. I'm not a paid protester. I'm here because this is why. And you have that poor reporter who's got to listen to that buffoon, Sean Hannity, put questions into him that he has to ask because Sean Hannity's a coward. Kudos to that protester who I would love to meet and shake his hand and say, job well done, because once again, you made Sean Hannity and all those buffoons at Fox Noise look ridiculous. So speaking of looking ridiculous, another culprit in what is going on in this country right now is a guy by the name of Tom Homan. Now, we'll get to this $50,000 that apparently, allegedly, he received. It just disappeared into thin air, I guess. But it's funny because Tom Homan and all these people on the MAGA right, all of a sudden they want to talk about hateful rhetoric. I want to remind all of you that it was just a few weeks ago that Donald Trump said not only he wanted to arrest 5 or 6 elected Democrats, but one of them hung. But Tom Homan wants to preach to us about hateful rhetoric. The guy that says, you know, I suppose there are some good people that are Mexicans. No, there are a lot of good people that are Mexicans. The rhetoric of Donald Trump is every single day. It's hateful rhetoric that can incite violence. But listen to Tom Homan try to preach to us about hateful rhetoric.
And so we need to let this play out. But while we're doing that, we got to stop the hateful rhetoric. Saying this officer's a murderer is dangerous. It's just ridiculous. It's just going to infuriate people more, which means there's going to be more incidents like this because the hateful rhetoric is not only continuing, now it's tripled down and doubled down.
What about calling this woman, moments after she lost her life, a domestic terrorist? See, you want to defend your law enforcement, and by the way, I think this incident is indefensible, but you want to call out rhetoric and people out there in this country that are calling this ICE officer a murderer. But notice how Tom Homan has absolutely no problem with Kristi Noem, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and others calling this woman who lost her life a domestic terrorist. He's totally okay with that.
Let me ask you, because we're almost out of time, I do want to give you the opportunity to respond to some lingering questions about you. As you know, in an undercover operation in 2024, the FBI recorded you accepting a bag which was determined to contain $50,000 from agents posing as business executives who said you indicated you could help win government contracts in the second Trump administration. I want to stress there was an investigation. It was closed last year. The Justice Department said it found, quote, no credible evidence of any criminal wrongdoing. I do want to give you an opportunity to respond, though, Mr. Homan. Where is that $50,000? Did you keep it or did you return it?
I didn't take $50,000 from anybody, and that's a question for the FBI. I'm not going to give this story any more air. Bottom line, I did nothing illegal. I did nothing, and the FBI and DOJ review this. no credible evidence I did anything because I didn't do anything illegal.
But was there
Question for- I'm not
$50,000 in
answering
the
that
bag,
question.
and did
I'm
you
not
return
giving the
it?
story any more here. This is an attack on my integrity and my professionalism. I'm not addressing it.
But
That's a question with the FBI.
Can you address, given that it's been recorded, did you keep the money? Did you return the money?
I did not keep any. $50,000 is ridiculous. The FBI has been clearing this, and it irritates me. This story keeps going on and on and on, even though I've been found to do nothing inappropriate. So I'm not going to ask any more of these questions.
But just a minute, did you return the money?
I didn't have any money to return.
Okay.
I didn't take the $50,000, bottom line.
Let me ask you, you're saying you did nothing unlawful. Would you be comfortable with the FBI releasing the recordings?
That's a decision of the FBI.
But it might be a decision for the FBI, but would you be comfortable if they released
Again, I'm not
those
getting
recordings?
I'm not getting ahead of the FBI in this investigation.
But can you just say, on a personal level, would you be comfortable releasing the recordings?
I am not going to get ahead of the FBI. That's their decision.
Okay. All right. Mr. Homan, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, I wonder why Homan wouldn't answer that question. Because he's not comfortable if the video was released. Because if the video was released unedited, you would see him accepting a bribe. That's why. And this is Donald Trump's DOJ that is not prosecuting him for that. There are FBI agents that were in that car. They have him red-handed taking money. And that is why Kash Patel's FBI closed this case, and they won't release the video. It's the same reason why they won't release all the Epstein files. I think you could come to your own conclusions there. Tom Homan is a criminal. So here's what we are going to do, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be your chance to sound off. The number to call is 702-221-7283. So we're going to take a break. Let me give out that number again. 702-221-SAVE, 702-221-7283. And I'm asking, MAGA supporters or not, this is your opportunity to call in. How do you defend this woman? Correct me if I'm not defending. How do you defend this ICE officer, Officer Ross? Why would you donate to him? He's made over $600,000 in donations. Yes, I defend Mrs. Good. And that is exactly what we are talking about today. How do you defend ICE agents, unmarked cars all over this country doing what they're doing? How do you defend 47 hours of training for all this power? So we're taking your calls right now at 702-221-7283. Your chance to call into a live syndicated radio show called Pushing the Limits with yours truly. Again, 702-221-7283. 702-221-SAVE is the number to call. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will take your phone calls. We'll be back in 90 seconds. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Here's the deal. The country's a mess, and America's youth is stuck at the center of a tug-of-war between propaganda, billionaires, and political clowns who think TikTok is a national security threat, yet can't open their own email. But the real threat that keeps them up at night isn't TikTok. It's the power of the youth vote, and that's what the Unfuck America Tour is after. We're traveling the country, hitting campuses and cities, exposing the right wing's playbook and calling out all the tricks they use to hook young people. We saw the youth vote shift in 2024, and if we don't reclaim that momentum now, we lose the future, our future. We're not bankrolled by billionaires, corporations, or dark money. We're backed by regular people like you, who won't sit back while the rich strip this country for parts. We need you to help us stay on the road to push back against the misinformation machine. Click the link in the description or head over to unfuckamericatour.com to donate, because nobody else is coming to fix this mess.
KristiNoemITCHELL.com. You can reach out to me on our website or on Instagram, and I will be happy to be in touch and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
Pushing the limits every weekday at noon on KSHP North Las Vegas, FM, AM, K29, 680 North Las Vegas, and KSHP.com.
All right, welcome back. Pushing the limits on a Monday. Taking phone calls here in just a few moments. We just had Ryan Shedd joining us, popular left-wing podcaster. Tomorrow on the program, Ronna Filipowski from Midas Touch is going to be joining us, and Riley Lewis from OAN. We had a debate on OAN last week about this Minneapolis shooting, and we're going to have debate number 2 on the air tomorrow. The Jolly Good Ginger is going to be joining us this week on Friday. Don Lemon's going to be joining us on Thursday. So a plethora of great guests that are going to be joining us. So anybody that knows me knows I am known to be putting a wager on sports now and then. Sports gambling is a lot of fun. And obviously this is peak betting season with everything that's going on, including the NFL season and the Super Bowl right around the corner. So my bookie is built for it. Same account, same wallet. Sports casino, reloads, live bets. So if you're going to go to my Facebook page, which is Pushing the Limits, you're going to see a promo code on there that you can click on mybookie.ag, and your first bet will be covered up to $500. What a deal. And if your bet doesn't hit, you could use the bet back bonus token and run it back, ladies and gentlemen. So please check out my friends at mybookie.ag. Go to my official Facebook page, which is the Pushing the Limits Facebook page, and you'll see a promo code that you can use for that bet back bonus welcome offer. Check out my friends at mybookie.ag. So we are going to be going to the phone lines right now. We're talking about Minnesota, of course, and we're talking about this horrific tragedy that took place where, at least in my estimation, an innocent 37-year-old woman lost her life, and you have the DHS spokesperson saying that she was stalking ICE for hours when we know for a fact that she just had dropped off her son 30 minutes earlier. They're lying. But what do you make of the fact that this Officer Ross has now received over $600,000 in donations? What do you make of that? Do you agree? Do you disagree? 702-221-7283 is the number to call. 702-221-SAVE. We still have 2 phone lines that are open. Let's start off with Steve. Steve is next up on PTL. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, lower your radio if you can. Lower your radio if you can, sir, because we have a little bit of a delay there, and then go right ahead.
Gotcha. In my mind, none of this would have ever happened if he was taken off the streets with his PTSD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
that's a good point. Steve, you're referring to what took place to him a month or 2 earlier, right? When he was involved in a situation where he was on a car and he was dragged. That's the information you're referring to, right?
I think he broke a side window and got his arm caught, and he was dragged.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that video, and I watched the video. And you're right, by the way. I think you're right. I think there is a case for PTSD there. But obviously, they need as many ICE agents on the street as possible, and they obviously ignored it, Steve. So I agree with you.
But you don't give a guy a gun and put him on the street with PTSD.
Of course not. Of course you don't. But that would mean logic. And obviously, we know a lot of the things that the Trump administration is doing is the opposite of logic. So obviously, I agree with you. Yeah.
Another thing is, they say they're going after all the bad guys. Where they just took a 17-year-old out of a Target, beat him up, and hours later, they dropped him off at a Walmart.
I saw that as well. Listen, there are so many videos that so many of us maybe have not seen of ICE agents that are, and that's why I'm calling this a dictatorship, an oligarchy. This is why I believe Donald Trump is a fascist, and everybody around him, quite frankly, the Kristi Noems of the world or the Kash Patels. These people are despicable. So you're right, sir. I completely, Steve, I agree with you. I have no doubt that he probably had some PTSD. I certainly don't doubt that, and we can't defend what he did. And I know you're not. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Sebastian. Sebastian is next up on PTL. Hello, Sebastian.
Yes.
Hi, Sebastian. Go right ahead.
Yeah. I'd like to speak to Brian. I'm a former law enforcement officer and a field training officer.
Okay.
And I can address what he's saying
in real time.
Okay, well, you're talking to Brian right now, so go right ahead. Go right ahead.
All right, so here's the thing. All right, as far as the DOJ's actual article, from Article 1, Title 1, okay, firearms may not be discharged solely to disable a moving vehicle.
Correct.
Specifically, firearms, et cetera, et cetera. I know you all probably been through this, right?
Yep. Okay.
So here's my point. He did an illegal killing, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know, he should be actually prosecuted. There is nothing in the law that covers it. I heard absolute immunity, all this crap.
Sebastian, may I ask you, if you don't mind, I just want to get a little background on you, and I agree with everything you just said. How long have you been in law enforcement for, if you don't mind me asking?
I've been associated with law enforcement for, over 30 years.
Do you mind saying what? You don't have to, but what? I'm not asking for your full name, but what were you, a police officer? What form?
I was a police officer. I was an actual FTO officer also.
Well, Sebastian, and then you're the perfect person to ask this. Tell me if I'm right on this. First of all, isn't it against anybody in law enforcement and training to hold up your cell phone on a normal traffic stop or any traffic stop? You're using one of your hands, right? Aren't you guys trained not to do that, right?
Yes. Okay. Keep that hand free.
Okay, so that's number one. Well, let's go through it. Let's go through it, Sebastian. Number two. Okay, cool. He's on the side of the vehicle talking to her when she says, "I'm not mad at you." Instead of engaging with her, he goes to the back of the vehicle, and then he walks to the back of the vehicle to the front of the vehicle. Isn't that against proper protocol and training as well, Sebastian?
Yes, it is.
It is. Okay, so that's two.
Put yourself in that position.
That's two. Okay, agree. Number three. Let's talk about the other officer for a moment before we get back to Officer Ross. Instead of engaging Miss Ross and asking her politely, "Hey, can you please get out of the car? Here's why." He rushes up to her vehicle, starts pulling on the door, and says, "Get the F out." Isn't that against all de-escalation techniques that you guys are taught?
Everything. All this whole thing was wrong. First of all, he had no reason to approach her vehicle.
Right.
None whatsoever.
But even if he did, but even if he did, wouldn't that still be against de-escalation techniques?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay, let's get back to Mr. Ross now. So we agree so far. Let's get back to Mr. Ross now. Correct me if I'm wrong. He makes little to no effort to get out of the way. He's standing there still while he takes out his weapon, and he's in front of the vehicle. He doesn't, in the seconds before the shots are fired, he doesn't get out of the way. Isn't that also against proper technique and training?
He shouldn't even been in that position.
I agree, 100%. And then he discharges his weapon, and we know at least 2 out of the 3 shots are from the side of the vehicle. Is that proper? Even if he did feel like his life was in jeopardy, which, by the way, I don't buy, why would you shoot your weapon twice, at least, from the side of the vehicle through the driver's side window?
He shouldn't have did anything like that. Yeah. Number one, when he discharged his weapon, he put other officers in danger. To be honest.
Yep. And guess what?
Nobody knows where that round's going to go.
Correct.
And after that, then he put other people in danger because he has no clear field of fire.
Correct.
So,
yep.
In all actuality, everything he did was against all protocol.
I'm not even done yet. And guess what, Sebastian? I agree with you, Sebastian. I'm not even done yet. Moments after the shooting, he calls her an effing B word. He walks over to the vehicle when he clearly sees that she's bleeding out. He doesn't offer any life-saving techniques, whether it be stopping the bleeding in some way, getting her out of the vehicle, checking her pulse, or giving her CPR. Doesn't do any of those things. What does he do?
No.
He very casually, and by the way, there's video of this. This isn't even an opinion.
Yes, I watched all the videos.
Yeah, he casually walks back to his unmarked vehicle, doesn't even call 911, tells somebody else to call 911. He makes sure that his scarf over his face is covering his face, gets into his unmarked vehicle, drives away with the weapon. Isn't that against any protocol where if there's an officer involved shooting, you can't just leave the scene, right?
You cannot leave the scene because allegedly, no, not allegedly. What's supposed to happen is there's a team there that takes the weapon, et cetera, et cetera. We can go all through that. I'm not going to waste your time. But they are supposed to interview him, take the weapon, do the ballistics, all this. Now, where he actually really violated everything is where he did not even try to render aid. Okay, in no shape, form, or fashion.
Sebastian, may I ask you another question? And by the way, I agree. If you're on the scene of a shooting like that, and there's no paramedics and doctors on the scene, and you have an innocent bystander who shows his credentials and says, I'm a physician, I need to check her pulse or stop the bleeding. Why, if you're an officer there, would you say, nope, we have them on the way, and it took 15 minutes before EMS shows up? Wouldn't you let that person at least check her pulse and possibly provide life-saving care of that individual? Why didn't they do that? And is that against protocol as well?
That's against protocol. I don't care what department you're a part of. That's against protocol. If there's a medical professional there, it can even be a CNA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They are supposed to actually help you. You actually should ask. But since this individual said I was a physician and they kept him from examining her, then in my opinion, then yeah, they basically literally were accomplices to her death. Whether she was deceased or not, that has nothing to do with it.
Do you believe
it's called fail to render aid?
Do you?
And that's what it is. It's
agree.
Fail to render aid.
Do you believe Officer Ross committed murder?
Yes. By every protocol that I've learned and I've been associated with law enforcement, yes, he did commit murder. There's no doubt.
I tend to agree with you, Sebastian, and unfortunately, these are the times we're living in. I appreciate you answering my questions and what you've done. I'm sure you have been a very, very good officer. You sound like one, and I wish we had more people like you out on the streets, Sebastian, and I appreciate you answering my questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a good day.
You too, Sebastian. I love it when I have good people that listen to this show, former law enforcement, current law enforcement, that are logical, good people. I wouldn't have a problem with Sebastian being an ICE agent. Obviously, I have a problem with what the Trump administration is having them do, but Sebastian seems like a good, reasonable man and goes to everything that I've said. 702-221-7283. By the way, I saw the video of this already, by the way, earlier today, but I haven't gotten a chance to talk with him. Robbie Roadsteamer has been arrested again. He's a friend of the show. He's the prankster. He's been arrested in Minnesota by ICE agents earlier this morning. Apparently, from the video that I saw, at least, they walked right up to him and grabbed him. Hopefully, Robbie will have another lawsuit on the way. These people are thugs and they're despicable. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Democrat MAGA. Democrat MAGA is next up on PTO. Hello, Democrat MAGA.
Brian, it's me here, number one caller since 1974, calling in to save the show again.
Not funny, but
let me
ahead.
ask you this. Would you say, in your estimation, 90% of ICE agents are normal guys, get up, they're good people, doing a good job?
No.
Just following their orders, doing what they're supposed to do?
No, I wouldn't say that. Absolutely not.
Nope. What percentage would you say are just good guys doing their job?
So first of all, here's why I say no. Okay. And we're not talking about police officers. We're talking about ICE agents. A good portion of these.
Correct. Federal law enforcement.
A good portion. I'm trying to answer your question. A good portion of these ICE agents wanted the $50,000. They don't even need a high school diploma. They walk in there. They do a 47-hour class. They're not properly trained.
But that doesn't make them a bad person because they needed a job.
Excuse me. It gives them way too much power. They're unqualified and untrained. And a lot of the videos that I've seen across the country, I don't see ICE agents, many of them treating people with respect. I don't see them using de-escalation techniques. In fact, I see a lot of these ICE agents that seem way too excited to deport people and arrest people. No, I'm not going to say 90%. I think that I don't know.
Okay, what percent would you put it at?
I don't really care. I'm not going to give you an exact percentage.
Okay, well, here's my point then.
Well, my point is you guys want to give exact percentages. What percentages of MAGA supporters would you say think that the election was stolen? Why don't you answer my question now?
I'd say a very small percentage.
Very small.
Very
well, guess
small.
what? You're very wrong because you can look at Fox News polls, CNN polls, Newsmax polls. At least 6 out of 10 Republicans today believe that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. So you're wrong. So ask me a question that's relevant.
Here's my point with that being said. Let me give you my point. So, and you're talking about de-escalation, which is completely right. But I would love to know what the senators think of this.
Hold on. Did they de-escalate?
Here's my point.
Well, answer my question. Did they de-escalate? Do you think they did? My
point about de-escalation is...
I'm asking you about the actual case. Let's talk about that, Democrat MAGA, okay? Let's just talk about that. Do you think that officer, when he tries to open the door And when he says, get the F out, and the other officer recording goes around the vehicle, which is against all protocols, would you say those two officers did everything they could to de-escalate that situation?
I would say not everything, but did she do everything to de-escalate it?
Hold on.
Well?
We'll get to her in a second. Name me, you said not everything. We'll get to her in a moment and I'll answer your question. Name me one thing that those officers did that you think was de-escalation technique in that video that you saw. Name me one.
Okay, but make sure, don't cut me off. Let me get to my other point.
Okay, but hold on, answer, please, I'll let you, you asked me a question.
So
answer my question.
So
you said,
how many, okay, yeah.
Answer my question. I'm asking you. You just said not
here's
everything they did.
Here's how many times I've been shot by police.
No. Hold on. Stop.
Comply.
Democrat MAGA. You're not, I'll let you go, but you're not answering my question and you're dodging it. I asked you if those two officers de-escalated. You said not entirely. I believe that's what you said. So now I am asking you, what part of that video made you say they were de-escalating? You said not entirely. So that leads me to believe that a portion of what they did was a de-escalation tactic. Please tell me one thing they did that was de-escalation. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, just one thing, but make sure you let me get to my main point.
Okay, you're not answering my. Okay, please answer.
Okay, so like, if a cop opens my door and says, "Would you please step out of the car?"
No.
And give me I would do it.
That's not what he did.
I
didn't. Okay, hold on. That's not. Hold on a second. So you're telling me that rushing up to her vehicle, grabbing the door, and saying "Get the F out" is a de-escalation technique? I'm not asking you what she should or shouldn't have done. You said not entirely when it comes to de-escalation. So you mean to tell me the example that you're giving of de-escalation is charging up to a vehicle, trying to open up her door?
I would say charging.
Okay. He went up to her vehicle at a fast rate of speed.
Okay.
He tried to open up her door and said, "Get the F out." You're telling me that's de-escalation? That's de-escalation?
Well, she wasn't on the side of the road on the.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't in a protest.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
To the door.
Doesn't matter. Walking up to a door and trying to open it and saying "Get the F out" is not a de-escalation technique. You're wrong. So give me another example. What did they do to de-escalate?
Well, that was my example, and
that's your example. Hold on. So let me get this right. So let me get this right.
You have
Democrat MAGA. Let me get this. Let me get this right. You think it's de-escalation instead of going up to a car and saying, "Ma'am, my name is Officer blah, 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 blah. Here's what we're doing. We're conducting an investigation. We're going to need you to do us a favor and please get out of the car. I don't want to escalate this further. I don't want to have to arrest you. But if you don't get out of your vehicle and if you don't get out of your vehicle or if you don't get out of here, we're going to have to arrest you." That would be de-escalation. You're telling me an example of you know you're wrong. De-escalation is not walking up to a vehicle and grabbing the door and saying get the F out is not de-escalation. Those two officers didn't de-escalate anything. You're 150% wrong. What is wrong with you?
Was you, Brian, and let me just say, if that was you in the car,
that wasn't my question.
Would have complied.
Guess what? Guess what? Why don't you say the same? Why don't you say the same thing about Ashley Babbitt? You've called into this show and you say what happened to Ashley Babbitt was murder. Did Ashley Babbitt comply? Why haven't you said Ashley Babbitt should have complied?
She 100% should have complied. She got what she got.
Okay. It's funny because I hear a lot of
your first caller.
So Ashley Babbitt deserved what happened to her then. Is that fair to say? She didn't comply? Kinda, yeah. Okay, I'm glad to hear you finally admit that. But guess what? Ashley Babbitt was trying. Hold on. Ashley Babbitt was trying to go through a glass window 10 feet away from politicians. Okay, this woman, Miss Good, according to every video that I saw, besides the fact that these two officers were breaking every protocol in the book, were turning her vehicle and leaving. The officer shot 2 out of the 3 times after that car had already passed him and he was on the side of the vehicle. That is a completely different circumstance than Ashley Babbitt, and you know it.
Well, I agree. Ashley Babbitt, if you're at home and going to work and you're not there, you don't get killed.
Guess what? Then why did the Trump administration give her family $5 million? Will you call that out on the show right now? Hold on. What do you mean you don't know about that? Donald Trump's administration, I'm educating you, sir. The man who you voted for decided to put down a ruling to give the Ashley Babbitt family $5 million of taxpayer money. Are you willing to call that out right now on the air?
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay, well, that's the guy that you voted for. He's giving her $5 million.
Let's talk about your first guest. the most idiotic thing I ever heard in my life. You're talking about de-escalation, and he says, you're a horrible parent if you don't tell your daughter, if you're confronted by federal law enforcement officers, you're supposed to roll up your window and drive off. That is the stupidest thing. You
so
didn't even agree with
let me
that.
respond to that. First of all, just because you do something stupid doesn't mean you deserve to be shot in the face 3 times. In a perfect world, sir, which is something that you are struggling with, I wish everybody would comply with law enforcement.
Would you say that's
but
great
hold on. Let me finish. I'm answering what you just stated here.
Okay,
I'm responding to it.
And I got another point about that guy too. Go ahead.
Just because you don't comply, there are all sorts of different reasons why people don't comply. Sometimes people are very scared for their life. They don't know what to do. They panic. There are all sorts of different reasons. I wish that she got out of her car, because most likely if she did get out of her car...
No, I'm talking about your guest, but he's teaching his daughter. He said, you are a horrible parent. I teach my daughter. This is a quote from your first guest. I teach my daughter, if you're confronted by federal law, ask Nunchuck, you are to roll up your window, you do not talk to him, and you drive off.
Okay, so first of all, hold on. So first of all, are you aware that when you are pulled over, you do not have to roll your window completely down? Are you aware of that, sir?
You don't have to roll completely down, but you do have to answer officers' questions, and you have to give your driver's license.
First of all, you are...
Yes, you do.
Okay, hold on. Be quiet for a moment. You just said something that is completely factually inaccurate. Have you heard of the right to remain silent? Have you ever heard of that, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, if you're pulled over for a traffic a pullover, yes, you are required to give them license and registration. You do not have to answer any question. Why is it that you don't even know? Well, no, you just said you should answer them. You have to answer them. No, you don't. You are not required
Well, he
to
said you
answer
should roll up
anything.
the window and drive off.
Okay, so
how do you think that's going to end?
Okay, so I don't think if you're pulled over, I don't know if he said that. If he did say that,
He did.
Okay, let me finish. If he did say that, yes, of course, I disagree with that. But you just said they have to answer. No, you do not have to answer anything. It's called the right to remain silent. So you're wrong there.
Yeah.
You also don't have to pull your entire window down. You just have to pull it down an inch or two, enough to be able to give them license and registration and be able
you
to
have
hear.
to comply with officer orders. You have to comply.
Which order are you referring
You can't
to?
just pick and choose what you want to do.
Which order are you referring to? What if an officer gives you an unlawful order?
If the officer asks you to get out of the vehicle, you have to get out of the vehicle.
Oh, really? Even if you're in a parked vehicle in a park, you have to get out of the vehicle? Really?
If they ask you to get out,
Wrong. Look
Leonard will tell
wrong.
you.
Yeah, Leonard did tell us, because he said this on the show last week. And those of you who don't know who Leonard is, he's a former lieutenant officer of 30 years. And he actually said on the show, if you're in a parked vehicle, say at a park or on public property, you do not have to get out of the car, even if law enforcement tells you to get out, unless they have reasonable and articulable suspicion that you have committed a crime. Well, you just said they have to get out of the car. You keep saying correct. You don't know the laws. You don't know what you're talking about.
So the officer's going to, if the officer suspects he asked you to get out of the vehicle, or
You
give
didn't
you a
say
driver's,
that.
you have to do that.
You have to
He's
have
not gonna just
reasonable.
randomly-
Oh, really? They're not going to just randomly. Well, guess what, sir? I asked you to go on YouTube right now and look at all the videos of ICE agents going up to people because they're brown or because they have an accent.
Okay,
and just
so
now, hold on a
let's
second.
just
Let me
go with
finish.
that. Let's go with that.
Let me
So let's
finish.
just say-
Let me finish my sentence. What I was going to
Okay.
say was, going up to random individuals and asking them for ID and asking them if they're legal citizens is completely illegal. Okay. You can't racially profile people and go up to people and go door to door as JD Vance and Stephen Miller have suggested, going door to door. You cannot do that. You cannot just go up to somebody randomly to ask them if they're a legal citizen. Do you understand that's against the law?
Yes, but you can also cherry pick 8 videos out of probably a million.
I'm not cherry.
confrontations.
Okay,
You
so
can
first
cherry
of all, I'm not cherry picking. There are more than 8 videos out there.
Could
It's
I
happening.
find just as many videos where it's done properly? Probably.
Can you find?
So
Okay,
there.
so you're
And
saying.
then
Okay,
also,
so hold
if
on
you
a
see in
second. Hold on a
DC crime
second.
down
Hold on a second. So you're defending the fact that maybe half of the ICE agents in this country are doing it the right way and half aren't, and you're totally okay with that?
No, I say 90%.
Okay, well that makes you an
because
imbecile.
I'm pro. I'm pro.
That makes you an imbecile.
And
If you,
how come
you're making the
Washington,
assumption.
DC is down 50% in crime right now.
You're making the assumption
What
that
do you think
9.
happened?
Hold
What
on
do
a
you think
second.
caused that?
Hold on a second. You're making the assumption that 9 out of 10 ICE officers today are doing everything based on proper protocol. You couldn't be further from the truth, and you have no idea what you're talking about, MAGA. Okay, you have no idea. You're not Democrat MAGA. You're MAGA through and through. You don't know the laws. I had to correct you on whether you have to answer an officer or not. You don't know the laws and what it says in the Constitution, and you're trying to go after Miss Good because she didn't comply. Interesting. But the woman who didn't comply, named Ashley Babbitt, was rewarded and given $5 million from the Trump administration. Unfortunately, we have two lines that aren't working. I don't know why they're not working, but they're not working. So we'll try to figure that one out for you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Ryan. Ryan is next up on PTL. Hello, Ryan.
Hello.
Ryan, go right ahead.
So Kristi Noem is lying. She is lying about Renee Good.
Well, there's no question that Kristi Noem is lying, Ryan. Everyone in the Trump administration is lying. They're protecting this agent. Sadly, they're protecting this agent, and our taxpayers are going to protect this agent and the $600,000+ that this agent has received, which I think is beyond despicable. You're right. Kristi Noem is lying. She lied on Jake Tapper's show on CNN, and she's lying now, Ryan. I agree with you. Let's go to Pez. Pez is next up on PTL. Hi, Pez. What's up?
Hey, man, I just wanted to make a comment about the weekend journalistic kind of breakthroughs. I was like you, watching what the administration had to say when confronted by news, and I guess we'll take them in order. You notice, as you had pointed out, that Tom Holman has never denied taking the money. He has sidestepped the question. He's not definitively say he didn't take the money. And I kind of like that they dropped that bomb on him. I thought Kirsten Welker was giving him softballs.
Yeah,
and
she's
in
horrible.
The very end,
she's absolutely horrible. Kristen Welker is absolutely horrible at her job. The reason why he doesn't want to answer questions like this and he wants the story to go away, because there's no doubt in my mind he's guilty. And this was any other administration, he would probably be in jail right now. There's no doubt in my mind that he accepted this $50,000. It's on video. It's on audio. And if he wasn't guilty, they would have released the video a very long time ago. It's very simple.
Correct. And number two, I was watching the Jake Tapper interview, and I just thought it was fantastic that he drew the conclusion of January 6th. So he kind of went nuclear at the end of the interview. Yep. I'm not a huge fan of Jake. Sometimes he's, of course, I've seen the book he wrote.
Yeah.
I think he waffles a lot of times, but I think that was like the nuclear option on showing the January 6th people and asking her whether or not the Capitol Police officers would have been correct in shooting those insurrection traitors that showed up on January 6th.
Well, yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. If you're going to say that, if you don't accept the commands of officers, then what would you say about the 1,500 or 1,600 plus people on January 6th that were pardoned? Half of those people, violent criminals who beat police officers, some of whom have traumatic brain injury. And then Kristi Noem wouldn't directly answer that question. I mean, these people just make themselves look like fools on national television every single day. I appreciate the call, sir. Sir, thank you so much. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Casey. Casey is next up on PTL. Hello, Casey. What's going on?
Hey, it's always good to talk with you. First off, the guy you had on, I have a lot of respect for, but he's a rarity. If he is a real cop, if he was a real caller, because normally with the whole, whether you're a fireman, a cop, the military, the whole, in uniform, the bro code or whatever,
yeah.
The good cops turning bad cops is a big rarity.
You're right.
You're
right. I agree.
Right?
100%.
And if he is a real caller, if you're listening to Brian's station, you're a good human, buddy. But unfortunately, there's not enough of you in the precincts around this country, because the fact of the matter is we have a lot of felons with badges. And, the thing about this guy that has PTSD, like he should have never been back on the force. He should have been doing a different duty, whether it's directing traffic or school crossing guard, whatever. Not every cop should have a gun. Just like every American around this country, even though the Second Amendment is part of our Constitution, doesn't mean everybody is mature enough to own a firearm. you know?
Well, and you said something. I agree with you. There's probably a lot of these ICE agents across the country that are felons, but unfortunately, we also have a felon that's the president of the United States. His name is Donald J. Trump. So I agree with you. As far as the PTSD thing goes, I'm going to say this in general terms, and it's not just the Trump administration. I think in general terms, there are too many in law enforcement today, police officers, ICE agents, firefighters even, that have a ton of PTSD, and we don't do enough to help them. And they should not be. I mean, when you see some of the things that some law enforcement officials have to see every day, they struggle with PTSD. We don't do enough to help them, and that's assuming that this guy had some PTSD, which he might have, but it certainly doesn't excuse. I'm sure you would agree with what he did.
But the fact of the matter is, Donald Josephine Trump has surrounded himself. It's more than people that just will agree with him and be yes people. And it's more than these people are unqualified, but most of these people have a past of not necessarily a felon background, but some sort of criminality in their careers. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, sure. This isn't a shock that what's happening to this country, and unfortunately, MAGA has got a taste of the white Christian nationalist utopia they've always wanted, and I don't think there's going to be putting toothpaste back in the tube. Even if we get the House and Senate back, MAGA's not going to go anywhere.
Unfortunately, I agree. I mean, I think
that you debate, they're not going to go anywhere, Brian.
Probably not.
They're like cockroaches.
Probably not, but I will say this. If, in fact, it's J.D. Vance and he loses in 2028, I think that could be the start to the end of MAGA. But again, we'll have to wait and see what happens. My friend, I really do appreciate your phone call. Great call, and I agree with you. 702-221-7283. One phone line open. Let's go to Nancy. Nancy is next up on PTL. Hey, Nancy.
Hello.
Yes. Hi, Nancy. Go right ahead.
Hi. I heard a caller talk about PTSD or whatever. Today I got a phone call from the Census Bureau for surveying, and I didn't want to give them my information because it's a federal thing, right? And to me, it could get in the wrong hands. I mean, am I being? I mean, I did talk to him and everything, and I know it's there for help.
Yeah.
However, in this day and age,
well, I hate to
what
say
in
this.
the world?
I hate to say this because it breaks my heart to be able, but I don't trust anybody within our government today. As long as Donald Trump is the president, as long as Donald Trump is the president of the United States and he's calling all the shots, and you have idiots like Kristi Noem and Kash Patel, I don't trust anybody. I don't know what they're doing with the cell phone footage that they have. I don't know what they're doing with anything really these days. So no, I think you have to be very careful. In general, you have to be very careful with your private information and what you tell people, but especially, as you said, in this day and age now, with Donald Trump and his cronies running the show, I don't trust anybody.
Exactly. And I had a question, or I had a thought. I was going to take my child out of school for a different reason, but I mean, after seeing that ICE is going to freaking schools, and I know they want women and children, and it makes me think that maybe taking my child out would be a good thing until this administration is gone, which won't be for another 10 years or so.
Yeah. Well, let's hope not. Let's hope it's not 10 years. Let's hope
No.
it's 3.
It's going to be longer. It's gonna.
I mean,
because
the only way
been done. And the longer it's going on, it's going to last longer.
Well, listen, I don't know. I hope you're wrong on that, but I will say this. I wouldn't put anything past this administration, but the midterms around the corner are obviously very important. And, my prediction is
they'll be rigged.
Yes. Well, they could be. I hope not.
They'll be stopped.
Well, I hope not. But, I hope it's not another 10 years. I don't know how we're going to get through the next 3, quite frankly, my dear, but I do appreciate your phone call, and please be careful with who you give your personal and private information to. It's really important. So I'm glad you called, and that's a lesson to everybody. Thank you for the call, my dear. 702-221-7283. Terry's next on PTL. Hey, Terry, what's going on?
Last longer.
Hi, Terry. Go right ahead.
Hi, Brian. Good afternoon. Ever since this shooting, I'll tell you, my blood has been just been boiling, and I'm reflecting on what I saw, with those clips with the interview with Kristi Noem, and it got me to thinking. I kind of think that maybe Project 2025 was published with a handbook on how to deflect and lie. I think when people like Kristi Noem, Caroline Leavitt, and others in the Trump regime, when they get questions from journalists and hard questions. And I just absolutely cannot believe how anyone could sit on a national television show and lie as much as she does.
Well, yeah, she wouldn't answer any direct questions that Jake Tapper proposed to her. A perfect example of hypocrisy. She's talking about, everybody needs to be treated the same when it comes to law enforcement and how they're treated. And then Jake Tapper brings up January 6th and she completely tap dances around the question. I think she's actually one of the worst in the administration. I think Kash Patel's certainly right up there as well. I mean, Stephen Miller I think is probably doing more damage than anybody, but right underneath him is probably Kristi Noem and then Kash Patel and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. These are very dangerous people that are very bad at their job. And Kristi Noem, listen, there are some people with a brain that are not stupid people, that are just bad people that work in Donald Trump's administration. Kristi Noem is a very stupid person, right? She's probably one of the dumbest people in this administration. And it's funny because all these people on the right, they would make fun of, and I think Kamala Harris is a very intelligent person. They would make fun of her cackle, right? You're telling me that Kamala Harris is not as smart as Kristi Noem? Kristi Noem doesn't have half the IQ. And that might be generous to what Kamala Harris had. These are very stupid people and very dangerous people. That's the bottom line.
Absolutely, and she's very dangerous. And I just wanted to respond about Ryan Shedd, your guest earlier. I can tell you right now, if I had a child that was driving a car and there was somebody that pulled up and wanted them to open up the car door or whatever, I would say absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Well,
and
first of all, it's gonna scare you. Second of all, that's not how you start the conversation, by going up to somebody and saying, get the F out. It goes against every single protocol and training. You start the conversation. And what's most, I think, important about this situation is how it started. And it started by trying to yank the door open and telling her to get the F out. You start the conversation by telling them who you are. My name is Officer blah, 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 blah. Here's what we're trying to do. Here's why we need to get out of the car, ma'am. We don't want to escalate this any further. Please cooperate with us. There are ways of having conversations. Most of these people have no de-escalation techniques. They're horrendous communicators. Some of these people don't even have a high school education. And you expect in 47 hours of training, they're all of a sudden going to have the communication skills. No, when you only give somebody 47 minutes of training, this is why this happens. I said this on the air 6 months ago. I said this on the air like 8 months ago. I said these types of situations are going to happen. I said people are going to lose their lives. Innocent people are going to lose their lives because of what they're doing with ICE. I didn't think it would actually take this long. And it's so sad. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Pam. One phone line open, by the way. Hi, Pam. What's up?
Hi, Brian. I was listening today, but I don't know whether you reviewed this yet or not, so I just wanted to run it by you. Are you familiar with the 2013 use of force investigation by the Customs and Border Patrol?
I am not.
Okay, well, in 2013, they investigated these Customs and Border Patrol agents, of which John Ross was one before he became an ICE agent. And what they found out was these agents were actually throwing themselves in the path of a car so that they could say that they feared for their life and could use deadly force.
Yeah.
And so there were like 15 people that were shot by this. You know, they would just kind of like roll off the car and then shoot the person.
Right.
Yeah, what does that sound like?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And listen, they're going to come up with anything new to protect law enforcement and not American citizens and not the American people.
No, but I mean, they were found guilty of this tactic.
Right.
Where they were basically, They would shoot. They would especially shoot at a driver if they were on foot.
What was the administration during that time?
Well, 2013 was Obama, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of the the point that I'm trying to make here. Under the Trump administration, there are going to be no new laws on the books. Kristi Noem and all these people, they're not going to be doing anything to actually protect citizens. It's going to be protecting ICE agents. That's really what it boils down to here.
Yeah. But my point is that the technique that Jonathan Ross used the other day was a technique he had learned in Border Patrol to give him the, ability to say, I feared for my life, so he could shoot Miss Good.
Yeah.
And that they also found out that these guys shot in frustration if the person was getting away and they were on foot.
That's what's so dangerous about these ICE agents. So many of them are trigger happy. They don't have proper training. They have anger management issues, PTSD. They don't have money. They signed up for the monies for the $50,000 check that they're getting, which is, by the way, absurd. And then you have a bunch of idiots. I'm sorry. You have a bunch of idiots and uneducated MAGA morons that have all this power. It's insane. It's ridiculous. And yes, I think it's absolutely despicable and disgusting. We have a few phone lines open now. Seth, thank you for the call, my dear. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Again, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Mark. Mark is next on PTL. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Brian. Listen, I'm gonna cut to the chase real quick because my panties are in a bunch today. That dude, MAGA, Democratic MAGA, is the biggest moron this side of Herb. Number one, Ryan never said, not one time, because I went back and rewound YouTube and watched.
Yeah,
he did not tell his daughters to drive away.
I didn't think Ryan said that. By the way, but even if he did, which he didn't, I said, okay, I don't agree with that statement. Next, I mean, there are people that just make stuff up about me. They misquote me, these MAGA buffoons. So that doesn't surprise me that he made something up.
Well, my other thing is, I just was watching Katie Fang on YouTube.
Yeah.
Back in 2022, Biden passed, he wrote up an executive order mandating the police wear body cams for transparency.
Yep.
And the day Trump went in, he got rid of it.
Well, yeah, of
so
course.
That's why these idiots are walking around with a cell phone in one hand and a gun in the other hand.
It's everything against all protocol when it comes to law enforcement. That's why I am at the point now calling it not only a dictatorship, not only an oligarchy, but Donald Trump is a complete and total fascist. And quite frankly, anybody in his administration that defends this stuff. Yes, I will go back to the days in Germany, Nazi days in Germany. I've had enough now, and I've never used that terminology, but I'm ready to use it now. What they are doing with ICE and the way they're handling this situation and others, this is a dictatorship. He is a fascist. And I think he is probably the most dangerous president this country's ever seen.
I'm with you, brother. I mean, it's like I got off social media because of all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about getting back on just so I can fight with these pinheads.
Yeah, unfortunately, it gets very stressful. And then I used to do that a lot. I really don't do that much anymore. So what I'm doing now is I'm just focusing on my own tweets. And I think I had like 2 or 3 million views on some of the tweets I put out over the weekend. I'm not responding to any of them. I'm just triggering them with facts. That's all I do. I put a picture of Officer Ross up there. I put up his picture when he was 17 years old in his yearbook, I believe from 1997. And I went by his picture and I said, this guy was probably bullied a lot and he's taking his anger out on murdering innocent civilians. Now, that's exactly what's going on here. And, people get triggered. They get upset by it. Guess what? I don't care. I'm beyond the point of where I care now.
Well, it was murder. Keep the fires burning, man.
Yep.
Love you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. I love you as well. Thank you for calling in. 702-221-7283. It's not a show without MAGA Darlene, right? The MAGA destroyer. Hey, Darlene, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. Brian, I want everybody to hear this. This is the difference between good and bad. I want y'all to hear this. Someone had opened up a GoFundMe account for the Renee Nicole Good family.
Yeah.
And I know why they have their last name Good now, because they are good people. But listen what happened. They were amazed because this GoFundMe account raised $1,500,000 and it was going to keep going. But guess what, Ryan? The Renee Nicole Good family said, whoa, shut it down. And then they told everybody, if anybody else wants to donate in behalf of her, to give it to someone in need. Now, tell me, what did the Erica Kirk family do? Grift. And then you got this family that's saying, help somebody in need. So don't nobody tell me she wasn't murdered.
Yeah.
And don't say she was a bad person.
I first of all, to my knowledge, she had no criminal record. Even if she did, it doesn't excuse what this officer did. Number one. Number two, I hate to bring up this guy's name because he's such a moron, but someone who I think is an absolute bigot, Myron Gaines, who's not very intelligent. He goes on Twitter and he puts up a fake image of Miss Good's alleged police record, which, by the way, she doesn't have. It was completely fabricated. And he puts it up acting like she had this long criminal record. She didn't, okay? What's the worst thing that this woman did? The worst thing that this woman did, allegedly, the worst thing she did was she was protesting and her car was parked for 3 minutes in the middle of the street, which would be a citation and a misdemeanor. That is the worst thing that she was doing, okay? And it's so sad, and it's so it makes me very angry and sad that there are so many people in this country that can watch that video and somehow curl themselves into a pretzel. Oh, well, she was coming at the officer and, he was struck, so he had the right to do blah, 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 blah. Listen, anybody who watches that video with an IQ over 20 understands that she wasn't trying to hit the officer. The officer should never have been in front of the car to begin with. And this was completely on that officer and those officers. And, it's very difficult and it's very exhausting. But even if people disagree with us, why not just have an independent investigation? Why not just do that? And then we can forget about all the rhetoric and let the chips fall where they may. Have an independent investigation. But Kristi Noem won't do that.
Oh, don't get me started on that. You know what?
Yeah.
I'll be nice. I'm not going to say what I think about her, but
yeah, well,
I can't stand her.
I could choose
we don't
a word.
like you, Kristi Noem. Get the hell out of here.
I could choose a word, and the word starts with the letter C. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling in, Darlene. It's good to hear from you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Chuck. 702-221-SAVE. Chuck is next on PTO. What's up, Chuck? Hi, Chuck.
Wait, is this Brian?
Yes.
Let me just shut my radio off. Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yep. There you go. There you go.
All right.
Yep, go ahead.
Hey, Brian, there's a little more going on than you know about. Okay? I was involved with a group about 2.5 years ago when Trump first got in. Well, he was already in, but it was a group called, the name has been changed, but it was Armed Democrats, and I was part of that group. All right, the name has changed now. It's not the same group, but they are right now recruiting people to fight ICE. And I kind of turned it down by listening to everything they said. And, one of their mottos is, don't shoot them till you see the back of their heads. And it's a bad group. I mean, and they're ready to fight.
The problem that we have is we have so many of these ICE agents who not only do not identify themselves, they're in unmarked cars. Many of them, you don't even know if they're ICE agents or not. They have scarves over their faces. A lot of these people don't even have any type of education. Forget about college. Some of these people don't even have a GED. And Kristi Noem has been saying for quite some time now, $50,000. You get $50,000 and all you need is 47 hours of training, and we're going to give you all this power. And we're basically
right. So they're getting all the lowlifes to come in.
Well, yeah.
And it's awful right now, and I'm telling you, I think it's going to be worse. I think there's going to be some fights between this group and ICE, and I'm pretty sure that I can see it coming.
And I can tell you,
tell me your opinion.
I appreciate. No, I agree with you, and I can tell you this. Listen, the mayor of Minneapolis, Governor Waltz. I mean, local officials are doing everything they can. We've just learned some breaking news that the mayor in Minneapolis, they are suing the Trump administration for what is taking place right now. They have officially filed a lawsuit. I don't know what good that'll do. Maybe Donald Trump will sell more of his Bibles. I don't know. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you'd like to be a part of the conversation. Let's see. Who do we have next on the program? Let's go to Leonard. Leonard is next up. Hey, Leonard, what's up?
Hey, Brian, what's going on?
What's up,
First
Leonard?
question, did I miss the big announcement?
Oh, well, I've had some announcements that I was going to make at the end of the
All right,
program. Yeah, but
okay, that's
but, yeah,
later.
But we do
So
have
let,
some.
let me
Yeah,
let
go
me
ahead.
let me say a couple
Yep.
things. There's a thing called the color of law, where you can't usurp someone's civil rights in order to use force or to steal from them. So there might be some federal laws, federal civil rights laws that were violated here in that shooting. But the other thing I want to say is, it looks to me, and we could talk about this Wednesday, it looks to me like the first round missed. It went in the lower right. You could see it's an entry wound, hole for the bullet, and it looks like it missed. So that means the officer stepped to the side and was shooting at a 90-degree angle and shot twice more. And most likely those were the rounds that ended her life, but they were unnecessary. If you're standing on the side of the vehicle and the vehicle's speeding by, why would you shoot into a vehicle? Why would there be additional rounds? And is it possible that in that split second that the ICE agent knew that he missed and wanted to make sure that he finished the job? I'm just asking a question.
That's possible, but then you say, why did he even put himself in that situation to begin with? It's interesting. Everybody on the right wants to say, well, why did she put herself in that situation? Well, no, why did he put himself in that situation? I'll turn it on him. Why was he in front of the vehicle at any time? Why was he behind the vehicle?
And it's a false equivalent. Civilians are not supposed to be trained in officer safety. I was trained. I taught traffic stops at the police academy.
Yeah.
I taught traffic stops to new guys. I was a field training officer where the senior officer takes new guys in the car and teaches them how to do things. And I can tell you, in 25 years of being law enforcement, being a police officer in a very busy city, I never once stepped in front of a vehicle, moving or not.
No, you're
and
right.
if I did, I should have expected that I may have to use deadly force. And if, by the way, if you could do that, every time someone was mad, they would step in front of a vehicle and shoot the person in it. You can't do that.
No, you're right. I mean, there are so many breaks of proper training and protocol here, even from somebody like me that can easily see that just in this cell phone video. I mean, there's 5 or 6 different infractions that were made, and it's so obvious to me. And these are the facts that I present over and over again to these people. They can't defend him using his cell phone. They can't defend him going from the back of the vehicle to the front of the vehicle. They can't defend this guy trying to pull the door open and saying, get the F out. They can't defend his actions after the shooting.
No one does that. No one does it. No one walks up to a vehicle. You're supposed to walk up and go, hey, my name's Lieutenant Cardinelli, and I need you to turn the vehicle off. I want you to put it in park. I need to talk to you. You're blocking the road. I need your driver's license, registration, insurance, stuff like that. You don't just go up to the door and pull on it. And if you do, then you're the one who escalated it, which is not,
Leonard,
according to policy and procedure,
you're
not allowed
correct.
to do that.
You're 100% correct. I've talked to so many former and current law enforcement officials like yourself, Leonard, and I know we'll talk more about this on Wednesday when you come in, Leonard.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Thank you.
I know it's going to sound like home cooking to the audience, but you did a good job covering you did. You covered all your bases. You have people calling in with these ridiculous, stupid arguments, and you're covering all the bases. And I'm going to stand by for a few minutes and listen for the big announcement.
All right. Thanks, Leonard. I appreciate it. Thanks for calling in, and we look forward to seeing you in studio here on Wednesday. So the breaking news by Omar Jimenez, who was a great reporter for CNN, by the way. I love Omar. I think he does a wonderful job on as a field reporter. The breaking news, as I just mentioned, this just came down moments ago. This is big news. It is. It'd be interesting to see how this plays out. But the state of Minnesota is suing the Trump administration over its widespread immigration operations, arguing it's become, quote, a federal invasion of the Twin Cities. So we will see how this plays out. I would imagine, Tim Walz, the mayor, they're doing anything and everything they can because they don't want to see innocent Americans murdered. And that's exactly what took place last week. Make no mistake about it. I don't care how many right-wing grifters and how many people on the right or in Donald Trump's administration keep defending this and keep saying over and over again how this officer was in the right. We all know that he wasn't. They broke pretty much every protocol and every bit of training necessary to be a law enforcement official. So I've had it with these people. I do want to quickly go over with some of the guests that we are going to be having this week. Don Lemon. I am a Lemonhead. Don Lemon's going to be joining us on the show Thursday to talk about this and I'm sure much more. The Jolly Good Ginger. This is a guy on social media that I've gotten a chance to really enjoy his videos. He's going to be joining us on Friday, so that's going to be a lot of fun. He's never been on the show before, so he is fantastic, and there's a reason why he's so popular on social media. Tomorrow on the program, two guests that I'm looking forward to have on. Of course, Ron Filipkowski from Midas Touch, the editor-in-chief of Midas Touch, is going to be joining us. And then if you guys recall, the other day I appeared on OAN on a show called The Real Story with Riley Lewis, and we got into a heated debate discussion about this Minnesota shooting. Well, he has agreed to come on for round number 2 tomorrow. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I really can't wait. So some big guests lined up. I have alluded on Friday that I had some big announcements to make, 2 of them. One of them I can't talk about yet, but I will say that something is very big in the works with a very large media company in regards to what I'm doing when it comes to the show. When I am able to speak about that publicly, I will. But I can say this publicly. You're going to be seeing more of me. And as we speak, it's in the works of me doing live streams, more live streams. So I'm not just going to be on the air here 12 to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday, but I'm also going to be live streaming at night. I'm going to be live streaming just like I am right now when there is breaking news. I am going to do more. I'm not just going to be on the air doing a show 2 hours a day. It's probably going to be more like 4 hours a day. And I am going to have another studio where I'm going to be doing that. So a lot more live streaming with no FCC, regulations, which could be good or bad depending on who you are. But that's going to be happening probably within a month or so. I'm going to be doing much more show material. It'll be live streaming, covering breaking news, and maybe a little bit, maybe R-rated later at night, and maybe you'll get an unfiltered Brian. Not to say that I'm much filtered on this show, but so that's kind of some of the news that I wanted to share with all of you, where I'll be doing more live streaming and more live shows. So if you guys support what I do, you like what I do, you want to see more of me besides the YouTube Super Chat, which Numchuck will put up those YouTube Super Chats right now. Also go to my website, pushingthelimits.live. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live, where if you go there, you can actually make donations, $5, $10, $20 a month. Listen, whatever you can afford, we so appreciate it. Again, pushingthelimits.live. You'll see a button there that says donate. Take 2 minutes of your time, even if it's $5 a month, whatever you can afford. We so much appreciate it, and you're supporting independent media. Also, my Facebook page, which is Pushing the Limits, the official Pushing the Limits fan page, where I think we just surpassed 53,000 subs. And we were at like 3,000 like a month and a half ago. So it's growing very, very fast. We'll see you tomorrow. Ron Filipkowski, and from OAN, Riley Lewis is going to be joining us. Have a great day, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York